Have you ever caught yourself replaying an embarrassing moment from years ago, as if changing it in your mind could rewrite reality? Or maybe you've spent hours imagining a future disaster that never actually happens. One moment, you're just thinking. Then suddenly, your mind is trapped, running in circles, analyzing, worrying, and exhausting itself over things that don't even exist. The worst part, you know it's happening, but you can't stop. You're not alone. Overthinking is like quicksand. The more you struggle, the deeper you sink. And yet, we tell ourselves that if we just think a little more, we'll find the answer. That somehow, worrying will give us control. But here's the truth. The more you think, the more you suffer. Buddhism teaches that the mind is like a restless ocean, waves of thoughts constantly rising and falling, creating turbulence and confusion. But beneath the surface, there is stillness, a space of deep calm that exists within you, right now, waiting to be accessed. The problem isn't that we have thoughts. The problem is that we get attached to them. What if, instead of drowning in thoughts, you could rise above them? Instead of being pulled into the storm, you could learn to step back and simply watch it pass? In this video, we'll explore 6 powerful Buddhist teachings that will help you break free from overthinking, let go of what you can't control, and reconnect with the present moment. These are not just abstract ideas. These are practical techniques that have helped millions find inner peace for centuries. By the end of this video, you won't just understand why your mind works this way. You'll have the tools to take control of it. So take a deep breath. The storm isn't permanent. Peace is closer than you think. Are you ready? Let's begin. The present moment, the only place where life exists. Overthinking is like being trapped in a time machine, constantly bouncing between past regrets and future anxieties, never truly landing in the present. One moment, you're replaying an awkward conversation from years ago, wondering what you could have said differently. The next, you're obsessing over a problem that hasn't even happened yet, trying to predict every possible outcome. It feels endless, exhausting. But have you ever stopped to ask yourself, where am I right now? The truth is, the past no longer exists. No amount of overanalyzing will change what has already happened. The future is just a mental projection, shaped by our fears and expectations. Yet, we spend most of our lives trapped in these two illusions, ignoring the only thing that is real, the present moment. Buddhism teaches that freedom begins the moment we stop resisting reality. The Buddha once said, "Do not dwell in the past, do not dream of the future, concentrate the mind on the present moment." When we let go of our attachment to what was or what could be, we discover that suffering is not in the present. It exists only in our refusal to accept it. There's an old Buddhist story about a monk and his disciple walking beside a river. As they reached the edge, the monk stepped into the water and began crossing with ease. The disciple, however, froze on the shore, his mind filled with fear. What if the current was too strong? What if he slipped? What if he couldn't make it across? The monk turned to him and said, "Do not fear the river, my friend. The water always flows, but the only way to cross is to step in." The disciple realized something profound. His fear wasn't coming from the river itself, but from his thoughts about it. Instead of experiencing the present moment, he was lost in imagined dangers that didn't even exist yet. This is the trap of overthinking. It keeps us from fully experiencing life as it is. A similar lesson was taught by a psychologist in a modern setting. A young entrepreneur, overwhelmed by stress, met with her mentor, who handed her a full glass of water and told her to hold it straight out in front of her. At first, it was easy, but after minutes passed, her arms started shaking. The mentor smiled and said, "This is your mind. A simple thought, held for too long, becomes unbearable." Modern psychology confirms what Buddhism has taught for thousands of years. A Harvard study found that people are least happy when their minds wander, even when thinking about pleasant things. This research proves that happiness is not just about what we experience, but about whether we are truly present for it. Eckhart Tolle, a modern spiritual teacher, once said, "Realize deeply that the present moment is all you ever have. Make the now the primary focus of your life." When we truly embrace this, everything changes. The mind, which was once restless, starts to settle. The weight of overthinking lifts. Life begins to feel lighter, not because anything external has changed, but because we have finally allowed ourselves to be here, fully. When your mind starts to wander, when you catch yourself drowning in thoughts of the past or future, pause. Ask yourself, what is happening right now? Feel the air moving in and out of your lungs. Listen to the sounds around you. Notice the warmth of the sun, the feeling of your feet on the ground. The present moment is not just where life happens. It is the only place where peace exists. The illusion of control, why letting go brings freedom. There's something we all do, and we don't even realize how much it's hurting us. We overthink because we believe that if we analyze enough, plan enough, or worry enough, we can control the outcome. We convince ourselves that if we just try harder, we can prevent bad things from happening. But the truth is, the more we try to control everything, the more anxious and exhausted we become. Buddhism teaches that clinging to control is one of the greatest sources of suffering. The Buddha once said, "Suffering is not caused by external events, but by our attachment to them." We don't suffer because things go wrong. We suffer because we refuse to accept that we can't control everything. We resist, we struggle, we fight against reality, and in doing so, we create our own misery. Imagine you're gripping a rope as tightly as you can. At first, it feels secure, like you have control. But after a while, your hands start to ache, your fingers cramp, and soon, the very thing you're holding onto begins to hurt you. The harder you grip, the more pain you feel. But the moment you let go, relief washes over you. The pain disappears. This is what life is like. The more we hold on to things that are beyond our control, situations, people, outcomes, the more we suffer. But when we surrender, when we release our grip, we set ourselves free. A few years ago, a successful Wall Street trader shared his story in an interview. He had spent years meticulously planning every detail of his career, mapping out promotions, investments, and financial strategies to ensure his future was secure. Then, one day, an unexpected market crash wiped out half of his earnings overnight. He spiraled into anxiety, unable to sleep, obsessing over how he could have predicted and prevented it. But an older colleague gave him a simple piece of advice. You can't control the waves, but you can learn how to surf. That moment changed everything. He realized that trying to control the market was like trying to control the weather. It was impossible. What he could control, however, was how he responded. Instead of resisting reality, he learned to adapt. He focused on what he could do next instead of what he had lost. And just like that, his anxiety faded. Psychologists call this the paradox of control. The more we try to control everything, the more out of control we feel. Studies show that people who struggle with high control needs experience more stress, anxiety, and emotional exhaustion. But those who practice acceptance and adaptability are more resilient and happier overall. Alan Watts, a well-known philosopher, once said, "Muddy water is best cleared by leaving it alone." The more we try to force things to go our way, the more we stir up anxiety, stress, and resistance. But when we step back, when we allow life to unfold naturally, things often fall into place on their own. So ask yourself this: are you gripping the rope too tightly? Is there something in your life that you're desperately trying to control, even though deep down, you know you can't? If so, maybe it's time to loosen your grip. Not because you're giving up, but because you're choosing peace. Letting go isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Because in the end, life will always be unpredictable. The waves will keep coming. You can either exhaust yourself trying to stop them, or you can learn how to ride them. Simplicity is the secret to happiness. We live in a world that constantly tells us that happiness is just one step away. You'll be happy when you get that dream job. You'll be happy when you have more money. You'll be happy when you have the perfect house, the perfect car, the perfect life. And so, we chase. We push harder, accumulate more, upgrade everything, thinking that each step will finally bring us peace. But somehow, the more we chase, the more overwhelmed we feel. Instead of happiness, we find ourselves trapped in stress, anxiety, and a life that feels too cluttered to enjoy. Buddhism teaches that happiness isn't about adding more. It's about letting go of what we don't need. The Buddha once said, "There is no path to happiness. Happiness is the path." In other words, peace isn't something we find in the future. It's something we experience when we stop complicating the present. There's an old Zen story about a professor who visited a Zen master, eager to learn about enlightenment. The master silently poured tea into the professor's cup. But as the cup filled to the top, he kept pouring. The tea overflowed, spilling onto the table. The professor, startled, exclaimed, "Stop! The cup is full. No more will fit in." The master simply smiled and said, "Like this cup, your mind is too full. Before you can learn, you must first empty your cup." We often do this in life. We keep adding and adding, believing that more will make us happy. More possessions, more obligations, more achievements. But just like the professor's cup, when life becomes too full, we leave no room for peace. Our schedules are packed, our minds are racing, and instead of enjoying what we have, we are overwhelmed by it. A few years ago, a woman named Sarah, a busy marketing executive, found herself burned out. She had everything society told her she should want: a high-paying job, a big house, an overflowing wardrobe. But instead of feeling fulfilled, she felt exhausted. Her house was cluttered, her mind was cluttered, and no matter how much she achieved, it never felt like enough. One day, after coming across an article about minimalism, she decided to make a radical change. She started decluttering her closet, her home, her schedule. She got rid of things she didn't need, stopped saying yes to obligations that drained her, and focused only on what truly mattered. The result? She felt lighter, freer, happier. Not because she had more, but because she had less. Modern psychology confirms what Buddhism has taught for centuries. A Harvard study found that people who simplify their lives, who remove unnecessary distractions and focus on meaningful experiences, are significantly happier than those who constantly chase more. Psychologist Barry Schwartz, in his famous book The Paradox of Choice, explains that having too many options doesn't make us happier. It makes us more anxious, more stressed, and less satisfied with what we have. Steve Jobs, the visionary behind Apple, once said, "Simple can be harder than complex. You have to work hard to get your thinking clean to make it simple." He understood what Buddhism has always taught. Simplicity is not about deprivation, but about clarity. When we clear out what doesn't matter, we make space for what does. So ask yourself, what in my life is creating unnecessary stress? What am I holding on to that no longer serves me? What could I let go of to create more peace? The truth is, happiness isn't something we find, it's something we allow. And when we stop filling our lives with excess, we discover that everything we truly need has been here all along. Your thoughts are not you. Learn to observe without attachment. There's a voice in your head that never stops talking. It comments on everything: what you're doing, what you should have done, what might happen next. Some days, it's encouraging, but other days, it's your worst critic, replaying every mistake, every failure, every insecurity you've ever had. It convinces you that you're not good enough, that something bad is coming, that you need to keep analyzing, planning, worrying. And the worst part? You believe it. But what if I told you that voice isn't you? Buddhism teaches that thoughts are just like clouds. They pass through the sky of our minds, but they do not define the sky itself. Some clouds are dark and heavy, some are light and wispy, but no matter how many pass through, the sky remains untouched. Your true self is that sky, calm, clear, and unshaken by the passing storms. The problem isn't that we have thoughts. The problem is that we become attached to them. We identify with them, believe them, let them control our emotions and actions. But in reality, a thought is just something your brain produces, like a radio playing in the background. You don't have to listen to every station. There's a story about a psychologist who was speaking to a group of students about stress. She held up a glass of water and asked, "How heavy is this glass?" The students guessed a few ounces, maybe a pound. She shook her head and said, "The weight doesn't matter. What matters is how long you hold it. If I hold it for a minute, no problem. If I hold it for an hour, my arm will ache. If I hold it all day, my arm will feel paralyzed. The longer I hold on, the heavier it becomes." This is exactly what happens with our thoughts. A single worry, a single regret. If we hold on to it for too long, it consumes us. But the moment we let go, the weight disappears. Modern psychology supports this idea. Studies show that the more we identify with our thoughts, the more anxious and depressed we become. A Harvard study found that people who engage in mind wandering, overanalyzing the past, or obsessing about the future are significantly less happy than those who focus on the present moment. There's a famous quote by Mark Twain: "I have had a lot of worries in my life, most of which never happened." The mind creates endless worst-case scenarios. But in reality, most of the things we fear never actually happen. So how do we break free from our thoughts? Imagine you're sitting at a train station. A train arrives. You can step inside and let it take you wherever it's going, or you can stay on the platform and just watch it pass. Thoughts work the same way. Most people jump on every train, letting their minds take them to places of fear, regret, or overanalysis. But you don't have to. You can choose to stay. Still, to observe the thoughts without getting carried away by them. The next time your mind fills with self-doubt, regret, or fear, pause. Instead of engaging with the thought, ask yourself, is this thought useful? Is it true? If the answer is no, let it go. Like a glass of water you've been holding for too long. Like a train leaving the station. Like a cloud drifting across the sky. Because your thoughts are not you. And the moment you realize this, you set yourself free. Mindfulness and breath, your anchor in chaos. Life moves fast. You wake up to the sound of an alarm. Check your phone before even getting out of bed, scroll through emails, rush to work, juggle deadlines, and before you know it, the day is gone. Your mind never stops. Even when you finally lie down at night, your brain keeps running, replaying conversations, planning for tomorrow, analyzing everything. And yet, with all this mental activity, with all this thinking, one simple thing is forgotten: the breath. Buddhism teaches that the breath is the anchor that keeps us grounded in the present moment. No matter where we are, no matter what is happening, the breath is always here. The Buddha once said, "When the mind is calm, the breath is calm." In moments of stress, frustration, or anxiety, we often try to think our way out of it. But what if the answer isn't in more thinking? What if the solution is much simpler, just to breathe? There's a story about a renowned martial artist who sought out a Zen master, asking how he could improve his focus and discipline. The master handed him a bowl of water and told him to walk across the courtyard without spilling a single drop. The martial artist, confident in his skills, started walking. But as he focused too hard on keeping the water still, he became stiff, his movements unnatural, and before he reached the other side, the water spilled. The master smiled and said, "Your mind is like this water. The harder you try to force it into stillness, the more disturbed it becomes. But if you let go, if you trust your steps, the water will settle on its own." Modern neuroscience confirms what Buddhism has known for thousands of years. Studies from Stanford University have shown that deep, controlled breathing lowers cortisol levels, reduces stress, and improves focus. One study found that people who practiced intentional breathing exercises before making decisions had better emotional regulation and clearer thinking. Athletes, military professionals, and performers all use breathing techniques to maintain control in high-pressure situations. The Navy SEALs, for example, use a technique called box breathing to stay calm in extreme conditions. Inhale for 4 seconds. Hold for 4 seconds. Exhale for 4 seconds. Hold for 4 seconds. Repeating this for just a few minutes resets the nervous system, bringing the body and mind back into balance. Steve Jobs, one of the most influential figures in modern innovation, practiced meditation and breath awareness daily. He once said, "If you just sit and observe, you will see how restless your mind is. But over time, it does calm, and when it does, there's room to hear more subtle things. That's when your intuition starts to blossom." The breath is always with us, yet we take it for granted. But when we bring our awareness to it, something shifts. The noise of the world fades. The racing thoughts slow down. Inhale here. Exhale now. This moment, this breath, is all that truly exists. The next time life feels chaotic, don't try to fight it. Just breathe. Let the breath be your anchor. Let the storm pass, and when it does, you will still be standing, calm, steady, and fully present. The law of impermanence. Nothing lasts forever. Nothing in life stays the same. The moments of happiness, the moments of pain, the people we love, the things we fear, everything is in a constant state of change. Yet, as human beings, we resist this truth. We cling to joy, hoping it will last forever. We fear change, trying to control what is beyond our grasp. But no matter how much we hold on, life moves forward. And the harder we resist impermanence, the more we suffer. Buddhism teaches that everything is temporary. The Buddha once said, "All conditioned things are impermanent." This means that nothing, no success, no failure, no relationship, no emotion, remains the same forever. We don't suffer because things change. We suffer because we expect them not to. When we accept impermanence, we free ourselves from unnecessary pain. There was a woman named Emily who had spent years building her dream career. She worked tirelessly, climbing the corporate ladder, believing that once she reached the top, she would finally feel secure, happy, and in control. Then, unexpectedly, the company downsized and she lost everything. For months, she struggled with grief and fear, feeling like her identity had been ripped away. But one day, as she was walking through a park, she saw an old man sitting on a bench, tossing leaves into a river. Curious, she asked him why he was doing that. He smiled and said, "These leaves are like everything in life. They come, they go, and the river keeps flowing." At that moment, she realized that she had been clinging to something that was always meant to change. She wasn't defined by her job. She wasn't defined by success or failure. Life had moved forward, and she could either fight it or flow with it. Modern psychology supports what Buddhism has taught for centuries. Studies from Yale University show that people who embrace impermanence, who see change as natural rather than as a threat, experience less anxiety and greater emotional resilience. In fact, many of the world's most successful people have found peace, not by avoiding change, but by learning to adapt to it. Nature gives us the perfect reminder of impermanence. The seasons change, flowers bloom and wither, rivers never stop flowing. Nothing in nature clings to the past or resists the future. It simply moves forward. Yet, as humans, we try to make things permanent. We hold on to relationships that no longer serve us. We resist endings, fearing what's next. But what if we saw change not as something to fear, but as something beautiful? Steve Jobs once said, "Remembering that you are going to die is the best way to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose." When we truly understand impermanence, we stop wasting time worrying about things that will inevitably change. Instead, we start living. We love fully because we know people won't be here forever. We take risks because we understand that nothing is guaranteed. We embrace the present because we realize that every moment is fleeting. So if you're going through a difficult time right now, remember, this too shall pass. And if you're experiencing joy, savor it fully, because it too is temporary. Impermanence is not something to fear, it is something to appreciate. Because in the end, the fact that nothing lasts forever is exactly what makes life so precious. Your mind is a river, let it flow. Your mind is like a river. Sometimes it flows gently, calm and steady. Other times, it rushes wildly, crashing against rocks, unpredictable and chaotic. And yet, no matter how turbulent the water gets, the river always finds its way forward. It never holds on to a single drop, never clings to what is past. It simply flows. For so much of our lives, we resist this natural flow. We overthink, trying to control every outcome. We hold on to the past, reliving moments that no longer exist. We fear the future, obsessing over what might go wrong. But what if, instead of fighting the river, we simply stepped back and watched? What if we allowed life to unfold without resistance, trusting that we are exactly where we need to be? Through this journey, we've explored 6 powerful Buddhist teachings: the power of presence, the freedom of letting go, the beauty of simplicity, the awareness of thoughts, the stillness of breath, and the wisdom of impermanence. These are not just ideas, they are practices. They are invitations to live differently. So ask yourself, what would happen if I stopped trying to control the river of my mind? What would life feel like if I simply let it flow? The answer isn't something I can give you. It's something you have to experience for yourself. If this message resonated with you, if you found even a small moment of clarity in this video, consider sharing it with someone who might need it. And if you want to continue exploring the wisdom of mindfulness, Buddhism, and how to cultivate a peaceful mind, I invite you to subscribe and be part of this journey. Thank you for being here. May you find stillness in the midst of the current. May you learn to trust the flow. And may you always remember, peace is not something to chase. It is something that has been within you all along.